Welcome to our webinar on the look and feel of some of the top practices that we're seeing around the world. This Mastermind Inner Circle call really goes through what I believe are the top 10 enhancements anyone can make for that $1 million look and feel. Now, for those of you who are joining me, I'm Dr. Mike Reid. I'm an international coach, and I run a personal empowerment and coaching program for doctors around the world. We teach in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and Malaysia. Our corporate headquarters is in Richmond, Virginia. And tonight I'm going to share with you what I believe are 7-figure techniques in business, marketing procedures that if you apply into your practice, you will see growth. I mean, if you just take one of these tools from tonight, there's no doubt that you will see a growth in your practices. I'm just blow this up so you guys can see a full screen. Now, I want to talk about the 10 enhancements because I remember going back to 1990, and I did actually go into a practice in Northern Ontario, Muskokas, and it was a throwback to the 60s. I mean, this practice literally had shag carpet. There was deer heads on the wall. It was just crazy. And when we look at a lot of the practices today, they look very medical. I'm going to share with you what I believe is as a revolution, a change in what we're seeing around the world. And hopefully you guys will take 1, 2, or 3 of these elements, and I'll open it up for Q&A at the very end. But this is an actual chiropractor's practice. I mean, you can see the modern cars in the background. And on top of that, there's an activator over here on the desk. So you can actually see this is existing practice. Now, I want you to ask yourself a question. Is how do you feel when you walk into a practice like this? I mean, when I get in there, I see these colors, I see the musculoskeletal system on the wall. It's like, man, I can't wait to get out of here. And the biggest challenge is you're in a closed room. It's usually you're usually waiting 10, 15 minutes. You're having adjustment, and that's what I call a clinical practice. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is how to make it an experiential statement. I want you to focus. When you look at your practice on experiential versus clinical. What I mean by that is imagine that you have a practice where people check in, they get adjusted, they leave. And you're just like everybody else. One of the things I stress is the purple cow. How can you be unique and different? And when we talk about this, we talk about key areas of smell, touch, taste, vision, hearing. Sort of an emphasis that I'm talking about in my Facebook Live this week is what are key areas that you can make experiential. So we're going to talk about the open concept. We're going to talk about scent. We're going to talk about cleanliness. We're going to talk about use of light with windows, if you have that. We're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about glass, wood, and stone and the new concepts that you can put into a practice that's modern. We're going to talk about furniture and how to make it more comfortable versus a clinical sort of practice. We're also going to talk about point of sales and samplers, the refreshment station, and the type of music you should be playing. And you might want to take a quick picture of this because I want you to go through this with a checklist. And if anything, just maybe take out a piece of paper and a pencil and just write down these 10 key areas as we go over it and how you can use a few of these in your practice. Now, I really want you to think with the end in mind. And what I mean by that is I want you to think of having that sort of Starbucks spa feel. Now, I give credit to this lovely lady here. It's Dr. Shereen Van Wagner. It's my girlfriend, and I'm in her practice. And, when we took her old practice, which was kind of cold, it was more clinical than in the new experience. We looked at some of the elements of things like Westons. We looked at spas. We looked at a Starbucks. And when I'm referring to a Starbucks, I'm referring to a Westin hotel. I'm referring to a Ritz-Carlton. I want you to think of the experience you have in these places and why somebody would pay $4 for a cup of coffee versus $1.25 at, say, a Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons. I think you get the idea. So you might see the lineups at a Starbucks, and they're usually around the corner. I mean, the busiest Starbucks have long lineups, whether in an airport or in a corner lot. They're busy, and why is that? So I want you to think about warmth, convenience, how to create raving fans or raving patients. I want you to think more open, and that's where all these practices are going. I know there's a bit of a pushback in some states or provinces, but go to a dentist and you're going to see these dentists have open bays. They work out of two adjustment tables, and there's usually four hygienists working around them. So they're very efficient in how they run their practices. And I want you to think extraordinary, going beyond patients' expectations. So that's the Ritz-Carlton that has you profiled, so they know exactly what it is that you like at their hotels. And I want you to think healing center where you love to play. And really this is important because this comes down to the one thing that I emphasize, and that's energy. How do you create energy in an atmosphere like this? And it's all about energy, because when there's a spark in the air, when you're happy, you love being there. Well, patients love being there too. And I don't want you to ever see your place of employment as work. It should always be play, and also designed for volume. I mean, you look at stations like at a Starbucks, someone's taking order, someone's creating the coffee, and they have a system, they're trained. So you have to think volume, and yet at the same time giving quality care. So number one, I want to talk about open concept. Now, we experimented, we looked at a lot of different places, looked at a lot of different practices. We came down to an open concept with the T-bar. Now, I want you to look at the colors as we go through this too, because the whites, the grays, the browns, different shades of gray, they're in. We accent this with a lot of greens. You see the palms throughout the practice. There's a lot of aesthetics that goes into this practice. And patients don't like closed rooms. The evolution, the revolution is more open concept. Now, this is also important for the doctor because it's going to allow you to move faster, especially in a T-bar where the next patient's already laying face down. You're adjusting, and the next table's basically getting loaded up. And this allows you to literally increase your speed by 200%. So if you're thinking of going on open concept, you'll see this T-bar here. You can even have a TV right on that table or hanging above it. And this now becomes a doctor's report room. So you can use this. There's a lot of versatility here, and I'll show you what we did with ours in a second. But open concept is the way to go. Our practice is actually broken into two key areas. One is the front reception, which I'll show in a second. Patients check in. They come around to the right side. They self-load on the table from a hot seat system, and then they go around the left-hand side where they check out. So open concept, the closed rooms, the getting behind. And I want you to make this note, guys. It's called the 15-minute rule. If your patients are waiting longer than 15 minutes, they're not going to refer. They're not going to be happy. So let's go from clinical to experiential. Let's go from the ordinary to extraordinary and make an experience. So this is the other side of the T-bar, and you can see how we have two high-lows sitting here. And what's interesting is we strategically placed the doctor's office right across from that. So if she's not with patients, she's in her room. And yes, that is a glass wall, so she can actually see when her tables are loaded. She's facing it, she steps out, and she's ready to go. So she's also efficient with her time. If you don't have that capability, I recommend that you have a small shelf in your T-bar area where you can stay. We designed a practice in Nova Scotia, and because there was no room for a doctor's office, he basically has his area right here, and it's very, very easy to adjust anywhere from 150 to 250 comfortably a day in a T-bar system. Next is scent, and this is really important because I want you to think of, from an experiential perspective, walking into your favorite hotels. Now, I like Westins, I like Ritz-Carltons, I like some of the top-end hotels. And, when I'm looking online for a hotel, I'll take a Westin over a Hilton any day. I'll take a Westin over, even a Hyatt, and Hyatt's up there. And the reason being is because of the experience I have when I go in there. And I want you to make a note of this, because if you change one thing in your practice, if you're on a limited budget, this would be it. And the scents that are healing scents include vanilla, orange, lavender. But here's one I like. It's called white tea. Now, if you're female and you're listening to this webinar, you're going to get it. You're going to understand white tea. And that's the smell when you walk into Westin. You can actually get this diffuser. It has an oil. It's about $120 online. You go to westinstore.com. So just write that down, westinstore.com. and just buy it. I mean, you can't go wrong with this. This is an amazing diffuser. It doesn't make a noise, but it fills the whole practice with this great spa-like smell that's not overbearing, but healing and soothing. You walk in, you go, oh man, that's an incredible scent. And patients are raving about it. People are asking, like, what is this? Where can I get this? So if you're not into white tea, I love vanilla. I love the oranges too, and that's just a very soothing scent. Um, the next is cleanliness. Now, this is really important because a number of years ago, I walked into a client's office and she had light bulbs that were burnt out. She had pinups of pictures on the wall that were curling. She had her doctor's report material stuffed in the corner. She had messes everywhere. Things were unfinished. They looked worn. And one of the things that we've dedicated to our practice is to always have that sort of clean looking office. And you'll see, yes, it's brand new, but also this office is very clean. The front desk is not cluttered. We've agreed that we only have two key areas of point of sales, one on the checkout, which you see on the far right with the square machine, and of course, reception, that's the NCA right here, that is going to greet a new patient, and they're going to go around to the right. So cleanliness is key. And one of my students a number of years ago said that they go around and they paint the office every year. I thought, wow, that's impressive. And you know what? It does make a difference. I mean, detail is key here, and cleanliness is vital. Coming back to this first client, as soon as I knew that I was there, she actually went in on the weekend with her mother, and they ripped up the carpet. They took everything off the walls. They gave the whole office a paint job. The next week, she had a record week. She actually grew by 30 patient visits, and she goes, the only thing I made different was the cleanliness of my practice. So, maybe take some time tomorrow, go around your practice and look for, the chipped corners that need to be plastered and painted. I'll look for the rips on the tables. I'll look for the overbearing posters because you have 10 of them on a wall and it doesn't have a brand image. So think about these key things. I mean, that's our logo on the back, and that's on metal on the background that's actually lit in the back. So I want you to think about how you can make your office very presentable when people walk in. And just remember, when your patients or even prospects walk in, they should be wowed in the practice. The next is lighting and use of natural lighting and windows. We looked high and low for a practice that had windows on 2 to 3 sides. Now, this is the doctor's office that also becomes a report room. And I want you to think about the experience. We have 100% closures right now. And, people walk in, we're going to talk about refreshments and what you should have in your practice, but they're sitting in very comfortable chairs. They're having a report on the view box, and the doctor's sitting across from them. I prefer knee to knee, but this works. We didn't put a wall in between. We had an open concept, and this is designed for a reason. So when you look at something like this, it's very soothing, isn't it? I mean, you've got punches of green in here. You've got the grays. And for people that are asking, that's dolphin fin. That's the color. It's just Sherwin-Williams color. In the reception area, we also have something called intellectual, which is the darker gray with browns. So this is along the side. You can see how we use the natural light during the day. It just adds a whole new feeling to this office. And there's natural green on the outside. So this becomes a beautiful office. And I want you to think about Starbucks and charging that higher fee. So when you have a more representable office and it's beautiful, it's okay to ask for an extra $5 more per adjustment. Increase your profitability. Now, the next is education. Now, this is really key because one of the things that I stress is a lot of you have great products, and you'll see that this is our half wall that separates the adjustment area from reception. And on the back side, we actually have a TV that's showing off a PowerPoint. Now, that TV is actually a large TV. It looks very small. But you want to get a 55, 60-inch TV that patients can watch. You can put it on your T-bar. You can hang it over your T-bar so patients sitting in the reception can actually see it. But we have products on the shelf right there. So as the doctor's talking to, she can step over, grab a product, show the patient. And we also have it on the T-bar. Now, the education means that we're educating on the screens. We're educating at point of sales on the T-bars, in the reception, in the hot seat area, that we're always stimulating. So I recommend a 2-week turnover. So show it off for 2 weeks. The education should be your brand that you're educating in the office. And we're actually in the process of producing 4 posters that will go on the back wall when patients come in that represent our brand as well as what we're educating on. The next is use of things that are modern. So as we're talking and presenting this webinar, it's February of 2017, and the use of glass, wood, and stone is in. And it's really important to understand that the chocolate browns, that's called a Jamaican mocha on the floor. You can get this at places like Home Depot. And for those of you who look at this practice and go, wow, that's expensive, the entire renovations were done for $52,000. So you can actually go to Home Depot and you can find a lot of these products online. When you get quotes, look for 3 different quotes. But a lot of these stores, they'll have things that are basically in the back room that are now off the floor, and always ask, do you have any products that are no longer on the floor that are in the back? And they'll show you products that they've had to rotate. And usually this is how we found deals. I mean, I have to give Dr. Shreen, she is the queen of finding deals. And we even got a couple quotes for the glass wall there. So you can see how just beautiful this looks. That's called a stack stone. That was from Home and Decor, the same with the flooring. And we got that flooring for about $1.60 a square foot. So let's go move on to number 7, which is furniture and the comfort you should have. We wanted people to have an experience. So there we are online looking for furniture, and it's out there. And believe me, you can get beautiful furniture, carpets, flooring, for a very, very low fee. And this is not a guy thing. I do not take any credit in this, because a guy would be comfortable in anything, but this took a woman's touch. So guys, don't hesitate to get some help, because we probably need it more than most people. But you'll see comfortable leather sofas in the bottom left. That is our new patient reception area. So as patients come in, to the left of those 4 seats is a refreshment center. And you can see how beautiful this is, natural lighting coming in. In the new patient area, that's called dolphin fin, that's that light gray. And behind the sofa, that is the intellectual. And if you're interested in those colors, write those down. And you can duplicate these colors in your practice too. Number 8 is point of sales. And this is important that in a practice, when you make it experiential, that you do have samplers that you can actually give out. Now, we'll actually either give out samples like the packages for patients, but we'll also have like samplers that people can actually buy. And that's been proven time and time again by people like Costco. People come in, if you go into Costco, why are they so successful? Well, people know they can try a product before they purchase it. And Costco also knows that they're going to give out lots of samples, knowing that the prospects are going to go into the shelf or into the cooler and buy that product. Now, one of the things that we've also discovered, and this is just applying some of my marketing savviness, is the 15% rule. And we've discovered when we do a point of sales at the front desk, one, you always want to stack it. Now, stack lots of it, not 1 or 2, but 6, 7, 8. I just broke this down so you can actually see a picture of it. And we put a 15% discount. We put a sheet there that patients can actually take, which talk about the benefits of that product. And then we do samplers, either samplers for them to take, or we will have samplers for them to try, just like the Costco effect. And this is where sales go through the roof. So this is very commonplace. When I do a practice evaluation, I walk into a doctor's office, I'll see a lot of products on the shelf. And the first thing I do is I go over to them and I start looking at the expiry date. And I know right away just how fast his products are moving. And I'll ask, what are you doing to stimulate this? And he goes, oh, well, we put it on the shelf. And often we forget about it. So what I want you to do is think about all the products that you have, rotate it every 2 weeks, apply 15% off, do samplers, have benefit sheets that are associated with the product. And most of these companies will have those online, and watch your products move. Get your team involved in stimulating the sales of these as well. And you'll see that there's a lot more movement within your practice. Next is refreshments. I mean, how do we make it experiential? Well, we do something different, and patients come in. It's really interesting. I'll watch the patients come in. They check in, and after they check in, they gaze to the right here at the refreshment center. They want to know what the flavor of the day is. And, we spend a little bit of money on this. We'll put, fruit out there, clementines, apples, whatever is in season. And this is basically strawberry water, but we also mix up, our most popular is cucumber, strawberry, basil. So try it. Just get some fruit, slice it up, throw it in with some spring water, put some ice in there, keep it cold, especially in the summertime, spring, summer, fall. Patients love this. And, we have cups. We also have bottled water that's underneath the shelf. Bottled water, typically for new patients that come in, we'll offer them a bottled water or, some fruit infused water. And point number 10 is music. Now, for those of you who've never read the book by Masaru Emoto on the hidden messages in water, this is one of those things that you can apply to your practice. So this is important because when I talk clinical versus experiential, when I look at a practice, I'm really going to give it an energy score at the end. And what I mean by that is energy rules. And in chiropractic, energy rules. So what Emoto found was that when you have negative energy, when you have negative thoughts, when you have negative music, it actually will change the formation of water. Now, think about that. From a perspective of the human body, which is 70% water, if you have negative energy, if you have negative thoughts, if you have a negative anything in your practice, I mean, anything, including a staff member, we've seen it before, where a staff member can really just piss in your cornflakes and just ruin the day. And for lack of a better analogy, I think you guys get it. I don't mean to use strong language, but I need to get this message across that it can affect absolutely everything in your practice. And one of the things that we look at when we look at all five senses is auditory. It's the voice that you have, it's your body language, it's how you say things, and it's the music in the background. And anytime I look for music, I always look for music that's got a heartbeat. It's got a bump, bump in it, and it's soothing at the same time. Now, I like to listen to Pandora. I really dig the Jack Johnson, the Michael Bublé's, the James Taylor. It's got that heartbeat to it. So think about the music that you play. I still go into practices and doctors are still playing radio and playing the news. Turn that crap off. Guys, I call it practice killers. And that's one of them that you really want to reduce in your practice is remove the negative energy and get rid of the news, get rid of radio, put on Pandora or any music that you have that's got that soft beat, gentle beat to it. So again, when we combine all of these, we have nothing but raving patients, lots of referrals. Patients love coming to practice, and there's different energy, different beat. So those are 10 key areas that you can focus on. So what I want you to do is look at that list, and I want you to come back and just say, okay, here's 10. I'm going to circle these 3 or these 4, these 5, and implement that. I mean, we talked about the sense, we talked about refreshment, we talked about music. Well, you might not be ready for open concept, but you might be thinking about an office layout design. If you are, I have a new service. It's called the Practice Layout. It's $697. I'll help you lay out a new practice. Keep your costs down. It's really important. Don't put money into it. You don't have to. And again, this is a brand new practice we did for $52,000. It's huge. So that being said, just make sure that for those of you who are on this, have not been to my website, there are lots of free practice building gifts. Just go to chiropractic-masters.com and you'll see it on the homepage. Sign up for my weekly blog. You can get my practice building marketing calendar. It's free for the taking, as well as some free practice building gifts.